And so my presentation this morning would be about Copilot Studio, is where I take you through actually creating an agent. And at the end of it, we'd all be bona fide but uncertified AI engineers. Probably can't put that on your resume, but still good to have it in your back pocket. So let's get started. So Copilot Studio, what is it? Copilot Studio is our low-code platform that helps you build, customize, and manage AI copilots. So we call it the copilots. Microsoft calls them the copilots, but they are chatbots, agents, and just AI tools that you build using the studio. The studio you can think of kind of like an IDE minus the code, because you could build with natural language or the Power Platform tools, which you'll see in a bit. So on the right-hand side there, I do have a screenshot of how the studio looks before we actually jump into it and build an AI agent for ourselves. It connects Copilot experiences in Microsoft 365, which a lot of businesses use, Power Apps, or you could actually connect it to your custom websites, etc. So I want to talk a little bit about how an agent actually works. So then when we actually test one out later, you'd have this in the back of your mind and you could piece the two together. So there really is 4 steps behind it. So the first step is a user would ask a question and the Copilot would ingest the question and begin thinking. Next, the Copilot would interpret the intent behind the question asked. So you would ask the question and it wouldn't just look at the question, it would try to figure out the intent behind it using generative AI and topics. Next, Copilot would look up against the data sources that you connected to. So whether that be a database somewhere or a public website or maybe a document repository in SharePoint, it would try to match the question against the data. And then finally, Copilot would respond naturally to the question asked or to the query. Now, it could be the case that you build an agent that isn't a chatbot and you ask it to do something. In that case, it wouldn't respond naturally. It would actually perform the action for you and let you know when it's done. So before we get into it, I do want to highlight some of these significant things of Copilot Studio. One of the big ones being that it does make AI available to everyone. So I really wasn't kidding when I say by the end we would be AI engineers, as we really would be building our own AI agent. It would integrate with your business data from Dataverse, SharePoint, Dynamics 365, etc. A big deal nowadays is security. So it does enable secure governed AI inside your organization because it is built on Microsoft's trusted platform and security standards. And then finally, because it is low code and it is available to everyone, it allows you to rapidly build these copilots, enabling your organizations to adopt AI quickly in their operations. And I highlighted some of the key features here. You have a conversational design when you're building these copilots. You could build the flows visually, or you could build it using natural language in which you describe your agent, and then an agent in itself would generate an agent for you. There are endless connections you could use for your data. So you could use the available connectors, which we'd see in a bit. You could use custom APIs, or you could use internal knowledge sources, so like a SharePoint document repository. Next, it does use generative AI. So that would be, most of you might be familiar with ChatGPT and the way that speaks to you. So something similar to that. It would pull data that you provided, and also it does have access to the World Wide Web using the Bing search browser. And then finally, a key feature are the publishing and channels. So you can deploy agents to Teams, to Power Apps, Dynamics 365, WhatsApp, Facebook, etc. And then finally, I did want to highlight some case studies and real-world examples of using Copilot Studio. So the first one there is a customer support chatbot. A company in the US called Holland America Line used Copilot Studio to create a virtual agent called Anna, and it acted as a digital concierge for them. And they built it and launched and went live in about 3 months, which is pretty quickly to adopt AI from nothing to 100. Next, we have an internal HR or IT assistant. So another company here called ProAct, they built an in-house HR assistant using Copilot Studio, and the tool automates HR queries and frees up the HR team to focus on other initiatives. Another one is a sales and product information copilot that T-Mobile USA used and built using the Copilot Studio together with Power Apps to embed an agent that accesses over 20 device manufacturer websites and allowing the frontline staff to fetch that information pretty quickly to give to customers that come in. And then another big one would be training and onboarding helpers. So this last one was actually a case study on Microsoft's website themselves. A boutique financial services firm in North Carolina used Copilot Studio to create an onboarding assistant. It helped draft job descriptions, shortlist resumes automatically, and summarize team discussions based on the resumes and the whole onboarding process. So pretty cool, pretty powerful stuff you could do with the Copilot Studio. And it does cut down a huge amount of time, as you don't need to be a developer. You don't need to know how to code or anything like that. So with that out of the way, we could jump straight into the demo where we actually build a Copilot agent live here. So I'll go ahead and pull up my screen. And this is the Copilot Studio. So to access it, you go to copilotstudio.microsoft.com and you land right here on this page. So I just want to switch my environment here because I do have a training environment. And I just want to point out as well that this is accessible to users to go and test it out themselves afterwards. So you can actually repeat the steps and build your own agent. So right at the top here, you'd see what I spoke about building your agent using natural language. You'd see here, describe your agent to create it. So I could start typing in here that I want an agent to be a customer-facing chatbot. I could go ahead, type that in, and it would generate one for me. However, I want to go the route of creating it from a template. So if you scroll down a bit here on the Copilot Studio website, you would see we have this option here to explore agents. We have this website Q&A agent, this voice agent, because yes, it does support voice capabilities. We have this safe travels, financial insights, etc., etc. And if you look at the case studies I presented, you'd see that we have templates that matches all of them here. For example, the IT help desk, benefits, etc. And the one we want to do today would be the website Q&A, because I want to build a chatbot that would go onto our company website. And so when you go onto there, you would be able to ask it to help you directly with your queries and concerns that would relate to Davin as a company. So I go here and I click website Q&A. And you would see it launch the template here and the builder for me. So I want to go ahead and name my agent. So I call it Da Vinci. Is a play on Davin, Da Vinci, you know. Here we can describe the agent itself. So it does provide a default description, an agent that can answer questions from users using the content of your website, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want to do. Here we could give it instructions. So this would be your prompt engineering, so to speak. So we have this default version here. Maintain a polite and professional tone while assisting with questions about the knowledge source. There are no specific topics that are off limits for discussions. So just to confirm, yes, there are certain things that are off limits for discussions. It does not relate to anything that you don't want to discuss, as it would be tied to your knowledge source. So I have a prompt from beforehand that I want to use. So I will go and get my prompt and paste it in here. And you could always refine the prompt as you test. So you're not locked into any specific prompt here for your agent. So what I added in here was answer questions directly and maintain a conversational tone. Summarize and simplify answers provided to the users. So I am happy with that prompt, so I'll leave it as is. Next, we have here suggested prompts. So you could think of these as conversation starters. When somebody goes to the website and they open a chatbot, you can add in a suggested prompt. However, I won't add in any suggested prompts, as I want the user to come with their questions and they seek out the help of the chatbot. And then finally, at the bottom here, we have knowledge. So this is where you would tie it into your data sources. By default, we have the Microsoft website in here. However, I want to go ahead and delete that and add in my knowledge source, which would be the Davin website. So davint.com. And I want to just paste the URL from here, from the address bar, into the public website knowledge source. But before I do that, I just want to highlight, you can see here, you can link it to your SharePoint repositories, Dataverse, or Dynamics 365. And if we go on to advanced, you would see coming soon as Microsoft Fabric. So if you have data in Fabric and you use reports, etc., you'll be able to connect your agent to those. So I go here and I choose public website, and I simply paste in my link and click add, and that will be it. You'd see it generates a description again automatically for me, and I click on add to agent. At this point, I just go ahead and click create, and would start setting up my agent right here. So we could give this a minute, and in this minute, I'll take any questions that anybody might have. You could come off mute and ask the questions, or you could ask it in the chat and I'll address them.
You guys can raise your hand, so I would unmute you manually. If any questions.
So I'll just look over the chat here if there are any questions. While we give this about 30-ish seconds to finish setting up the agent, then we could go ahead and refine our agent and actually test it out.
I actually have a question.
Yep.
Copilot Studio is a pretty new term. So was it recently launched by Microsoft, or how long has it been in existence?
Maybe about a couple of years. I say years very lightly, but the actual adoption of it is pretty new, as it is a builder, so to speak, for AI, and it is all about Microsoft low-code, quick development initiative like Power Apps, etc.
Okay, thank you. We have one question actually from Mervin. I'm going to allow him to speak. Okay, Mervin, whenever you're ready, you can unmute.
Hi, Adrian. How are you doing today?
Hey, morning. Good. And yourself?
Good, good. Just curious, when it comes to the sources, is it possible to specify internal resources such as an on-prem database or on-prem files? Is there any sort of gateway that it can access that to use as sources, or must it be only the sources I saw from your demo over there?
You can actually add in your internal sources as well once you have it configured. So if I actually go to add sources here one more time, you'd see we have all of these here. So if you have a SQL database on premise, etc., you'll be able to do that. So yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks, Mervin. We also have a question from Dwight McGuire. Can you use password protected knowledge sources?
No, you would have to allow it to access it. So if you have an interface that it needs to log into, you would not be able to use that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. And we have one more from Christian Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Could you add custom documents such as PDFs to the knowledge source?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, you don't even need to add documents individually. You could actually drop them into SharePoint and have a whole document repository, and it would automatically open them and retrieve the information for you. But if you want to drag and drop documents, as you can see here, we could do that as well.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much. And shout out to Marilyn Allers. She actually answered my question. Microsoft Copilot Studio was announced and released on November 15th, 2023 at the Microsoft Ignite conference. So thank you so much, Marilyn. So just shy of 2 years. All right, so now I'll hand over to you again, Adrian, to finish your demo.
Nice. Thanks, everybody, for the questions. And you can see here the agent was provisioned. So now we could actually refine it and launch it. So what we want to do is just want to confirm that the description is okay. Here you can see use generative AI. So we definitely want to enable that. So I'll go ahead and enable generative AI. This, as I said earlier, would allow us to get those responses that we'll be familiar with from things such as ChatGPT. Here you'd see the agent model. So we actually could change the model. The default is GPT 4.1. This would have been a model that ChatGPT used to use in the past. Now it is upgraded to GPT 5.0, which we can use here as well. Here we have triggers and channels. This is where you could instruct the agent to act on specific actions or triggers. So if I click on the add button here, you'd see what I am talking about. So here we could add in a recurrence trigger. So let's say every day at 10 a.m. you want the agent to do something, you'll be able to set up that recurrence here. Next, let's say you have a SharePoint repository. When you add in an item in there, you want the agent to do something on it. You could choose this one here when an item is created or modified, and it will perform that action at that point. However, we are creating a chatbot, so I don't need any triggers. So I'll just leave it as is. Here we have the instructions or our prompt, in which we already added in some additional information earlier. So I'll leave it as is. However, you could still edit it. Next, we have the knowledge sources. We had a couple of questions on knowledge sources. We did already configure ours, so I'll leave it as is. Below that, we have tools. So the tools actually empower the agent to do specific things and do specific tasks. So if I click on add tool here, you would see we could actually connect the agent to do tasks within Excel, Outlook, Office 365, etc. And below that, we have agents. So you could actually create a team of agents that all work together to do specific tasks, but accomplish an overall goal. So you could consider it kind of like a, yeah, I guess a team of agents or like a master agent and child agents. You could set up something like that as well. And below here, we have topics in which we could add into the agents. We could configure greetings, we could configure goodbyes, etc. And then at the bottom here, we have the suggested prompts, which we covered earlier, in which you could kind of guide the users towards a certain conversation, but we want the users to come to the chatbot with their specific queries, so we leave that as is. So at this point, if I go to edit here, I just want to show you that you can actually change the model by clicking the edit button. And here, all you need to do to set a new model is click on this drop down, and you'll see all of these models available for you to use here. And then that would be it. It is as simple as creating the agent like that. So now we could actually go test it before we launch the agent itself. So to test the agent, you'd notice we have this area on the right-hand side here called Test Your Agent. You'd see, hello, I'm your website Q&A Copilot. And I'll go ahead and ask it a question based on the information that we fed it, which would be information presented on the Darwin TT website. So I'll go ask it, hi, can Darwin help my organization with implementing an automation for a manager approval process. And you'd notice that automatically the screen on the left changed. So this would show me the thinking and the rationale behind the answer that I would get. So you'd see here, it actually is streaming the answer to me directly. Yes, Darwin could help with the organization approval process, and it tells me what Darwin does. So the Darwin uses Power Automate to design workflows, etc. And you could actually see the conversational tone that it is taking based on the prompt that we fed it. And you could see it actually provided the sources for me here to go and look at this information further if I wanted to, because we asked it to summarize the information and answer it directly. So I am pretty happy with the way this answered my question here. So I'll just go ahead and click the publish button to publish my agent. And so this would make the agent live and usable. But before we actually put it onto our website or take it out of the design studio, we have one more setting to do after the publishing, and I'll do that. So in the meantime, I'll address questions again if anybody wants to raise their hand and ask questions, or I see we have some questions in the chat. So can Copilot handle context switching between apps like Outlook, Teams, and Word? Does it maintain continuity across tasks? So for something like that, I would actually recommend you create and link agents together. But yes, it could move between the different apps, as you saw when we went to this option here for tools, where we're able to connect it to the different tools. Okay, so my agent is published, and we're almost ready to put it onto our website and have it be an actual customer-facing chatbot. But before we do that, we want to configure the security of the agent. So if I go to settings and I go to security, I want to go to authentication. And in here, you would notice that the default would be to authenticate with Microsoft. And this would be using Teams, SharePoint, etc., and your Microsoft account. However, if we want a customer-facing chatbot, then we cannot force authentication because I might not have a Microsoft account that I want to sign in with just to use a chatbot. So we want to use no authentication, and that would make our chatbot publicly available, which is the way it should be for a customer-facing chatbot. So I'll go ahead and click save. It will give me some warnings and just let me know that what I'm about to do would make it publicly available, which is fine. That is what I want. So I'll go ahead and click save. And at this point, you'd see the authentication settings have been saved, and I need to publish it one more time. So every time you make big changes like that, you do need to publish it. So you'd see the draft status here, and it is publishing right now. Right? And in the meantime, while it is publishing, I'll go back to the chat here and answer any questions. So any advantages to changing the models for different agents? Example, will one model have an advantage using the Q&A agent over another model? Absolutely, for sure. There are different advantages to using the different models. For example, you would have noticed that some of the models had advanced reasoning, some had quick responses, etc. Different models will be tuned to do different things. So GPT 4.1, the default, is a good all-around model. It could reason well enough, it can handle complex queries, and it still maintains that conversational tone, whereas some models will be designed to just fetch information and match it back to you as quickly as possible. So you would have to determine what your agent is trying to accomplish and match it to the best model available for you. Right, at this point, the model is published, and so we're ready to launch it on our website. But before I do that, I just want to show you the different channels that you can actually implement this agent in. So at the top here, we have demo website. That would be the one I'll be showing you this morning. We have supported Microsoft channels. This would be Teams, Microsoft 365. We have SharePoint as well. And then we have some other channels. So I did mention custom websites. So if you click on the web app version, you could actually copy out this connection string and put it into an iframe. So you can see the iframe actually provided here for us. And we could embed it into our custom websites if we wanted to. Here we have native app. We could actually build it into our apps themselves. We have Facebook, WhatsApp, and a lot of other social media and popular platforms. So as you can see, you could build in Copilot Studio and you could carry your agent to a lot of places. In fact, the agent could live in a lot of these at the same time as well. So just for today though, I'll be using the demo website just to show you. So here we have shared the website with the team members to see your agent in action. So I'll go ahead and click copy and I will paste it into my browser. And now after you configure an agent, it does take about 10 or 15 minutes to publish and actually become usable, but actually mine is already usable here on the website. So this is actually a live website, and you can see, hello, I'm your website Q&A Copilot. Please ensure the knowledge source on the left is pointing to your website, so I could provide customized answers based on your website content. So at this point, I do have one more question that I wanted to ask my agent based on Darwin. So I'll ask it, hi, my company wants to implement an ERP solution to ease the burden of the sales and accounting team. Is this something that Darwin could help us with? And we'll see what it says. So yes, Darwin could help your company implement an ERP solution to support your sales and accounting teams. They offer Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central, which streamlines business operations by connecting finance, sales, inventory, and more in one platform. This solution provides automated workflows, real-time insights, and accurate financial data, making it easier for both sales and accounting teams to work efficiently and make informed decisions. So I just want to point out there that it answered the question directly as per the prompt, and it maintained the same topic throughout. So the topic would have been ERP, sales, and the accounting team. And as you can see throughout the answer, it did reference those key points right through. And then it said Darwin also assists with setup, implementation, and ongoing support to ensure everything runs smoothly as your business grows. So here we covered the topic, but here you could actually see the intent. So the intent behind this question would be to implement that ERP solution. It picked up on the intent, and then it spoke about the setup, the implementation, and of course, if you do set up something new within an organization, you do want to have that support going forward. So that is where the intent actually was spot on. And then, of course, it did provide you sources as well and references should you want to go to the Darwin website directly yourself and see this information there. And that would be it. We could continue asking questions, but one thing I do want to point out is because it is AI and generative AI, giving it feedback, like using this like button and dislike button, would help the model and the agent get better over time. So I would encourage that, you actually give the feedback here and you help improve the agent itself. So that way it could keep giving good answers and getting better and better and better as you and your users use it. And that would be it. That would bring me to the end of the demo. And I hope everybody enjoyed. Now we are all AI engineers. We could go out there and start creating agents to automate well, not everything, but a lot of things. So thanks this morning for your time, everybody. Take care, and I'll address any questions in the chat.